Oh My Brain is a 1-hour live discussion event where we ask science, psychology, philosophy, and spirituality questions. We then go around the virtual table to share our thoughts, answers, and ideas. And the goal is to learn and expand both our thinking and speaking skills. Ali, you said something that was better than this goal, learn and expand both our thinking and speaking skills. I think you said the goal is to fire our neurons. I love that. Fire our neurons?
Yes, definitely. That's what science is all about.
Yes, fire our neurons.
Initiate and fire them.
Yes. So, those who are on the couch, you will have the opportunity to speak or pass. And we would love to hear your thoughts. There are no bad answers and there are no wrong answers, all right? Sifu Peter, welcome, welcome. Hello and welcome to our event. So, do small dogs come from wolves? Tell us what you believe. And
Well, geez, I guess, sure. If all dogs must descend from wolves, then yes. I wasn't aware that was the case, but it seems logical enough.
Sorry, tell us what you believe.
Why not?
How did it all start? You know, tell us the stories.
Well, I'm far from an expert on dogs or, but I mean, you know, if we think about evolutionary theory, then, you know, it starts with what, I don't know, base dog would be wolf, and then each different breed kind of evolving to fit different needs. I don't know what specific evolutionary purpose a poodle fits, or but it must be some. So
absolutely, yeah, it can be poodles, can be pooches, it can be any small dogs that you can think about. But yeah. I like your train of thought. Awesome. Let's go to Tim.
That's indeed a very interesting question I never encountered so far. So the wolf is a predator and the dog, as we know, is a domestic animal, and they are from the family of the wolves. So basically it does make sense. So the dog, as we know, which we have nowadays in our homes as a pet, basically comes from, it stems from the wolf. It's just a domestic kind of wolf, more or less. So yeah, small dogs come from wolves.
So you do believe it, is that right?
Yeah, I do.
All right, awesome. Thank you. Ali.
Yeah, well, I've had some time to do some research, and from research that has been done, they say that dogs have evolved from wolves after they were domesticated, because they used to come and eat in packs when hunters used to eat meat and they used to hunt. So they used to stick around so that they can eat the food that was left over, and then slowly they started living with humans, and over the years they obviously evolved. So there is a logic to that as well. And as well, they also have, based on research, grey wolves and dogs diverged from an extinct wolf species, and they actually find that it ranges from 15,000 years ago to 40,000 years ago, based on fossil DNA research that has been done.
Wow, that is some incredible research.
Nice.
I mean, how do I add on to that? That is incredible. So now let's move quickly back to the lovely Larube.
Back to me?
Yes.
Oh, I thought you were going to skip over me then.
Definitely not.
Okay, so I think, like, I've had some time to think. I think what happened was, so we had those wolves, and like wolves are like alpha, like the big ones, like they're good at whatever. And I think, like, when they gave birth, there were like some anomalies, and like the anomalies that weren't alpha, they were a bit like I don't want to use the word weird, but they were a bit odd to the other dominant wolves. And then we humans saw that and we took them and sort of domesticated them. And then over time, they became a little bit more like not as wolves and less dominant. And I think that's what happened.
And
Basically,
hence they
were
evolved
anomalies.
into dogs.
Exactly.
Right.
All right.
Yeah.
How many
So-
different dog breeds are there? Does anybody know?
There's about.
Could you repeat?
Didn't they say there's
Just
a?
how many different dog breeds there are?
Didn't they say there's about
How many different-
400 or 400 to 600 dog breeds?
That's quite a lot.
Could be.
Yeah. All right. So very interesting, Larub. Why do you think
Thank
they
you.
needed to domesticate wolves to dogs?
Is that a question to me?
Yes.
Oh, okay. I don't think they needed to. I think it just happened, like, because obviously wolves are like dominant. We don't want to domesticate them because they're harder to like control. But the anomalies, they were just easier to like. The anomalies could be different things. So they could be like not as dominant, or they could also be they look a bit more cuter. So we just want to like take care of them. So I think it just happened
Right.
like that. Yeah.
And of course, obviously, without being in the wild as much, they weren't so wild. Similar to humans as well, how we have evolved, in the sense that when we were hunters, obviously a lot of our body features were different compared to now that we are living in the city and everything is pretty much prepared for us. So similarly, I would say wolves could have also evolved, seen as that now they were being domesticated. And obviously their wilder features were evolved and changed over the season. Another point that I read, actually to elaborate on what I said earlier, with research that I've done, dogs were probably domesticated by accident, actually, where wolves began trailing ancient hunter-gatherings to snack on their garbage. And then wolves may have been slipped by extra food scraps. I'm actually reading this, sorry. And the theory goes they survived better, passed on their genes, and obviously the genes evolved and changed over the years. And eventually these wolves evolved into dogs, becoming more friendlier, and obviously not being what I said earlier, without their body features being a little bit more different as they evolved.
100%.
Tim, would you like to add something?
Yeah, sure.
I see you coming closer.
Yeah. I just wanted to say, because we can come back, Dreaming Demon, did you have anything to say?
Well, I think that at a certain point there was definitely a determined effort to domesticate dogs because mankind realized what a benefit they would be to hunting and protection and so forth. So I don't think it was just purely by accident. I think at some point there was definitely a determined effort made to further that along.
Awesome. All right. Great.
That's my 2 cents.
Great suggestions. So I'll give you my suggestions. I just want to say hello to those on time. We had a record number of VR digital citizens watching The Moral and Social Dilemma, up to 300 viewers. So as quiet as the premiere is with not many people, because this is our first event and as we get regulars it will build, we still have the viewers on Facebook who are watching and are getting a lot of information. And the thing is, for example, we started off with, wow, that's a question I've never thought about. And now all of a sudden those neurons in the brain, the neuroplasticity is like working on fire, and you're thinking on new ways of science, evolution, and also possibly you're going to be saying, how did giraffes get such long necks? And why aren't cats as domesticated as dogs? Ooh, Ali, I think that'll be the next question for today. But you see what I mean, is that the new neurons are being fired. And so you're now going to be thinking with a different dimension the next day. And that's why this is all very beneficial. And these lessons are not just going to be about evolution. Next week, we're going to go more into the, quantum, then chemistry, physics. Every week it changes. So I'm going to go into why. Well, let's start with the question first to those who've just joined on Facebook. And that is, Do small dogs come from wolves? Tell us what you believe. So I 100% believe that small dogs come from wolves. It's, as Ali said, it started around 15,000 to 40,000 years ago, and it came from the ancestor of the grey wolf. So it wasn't the Canis lupus exactly, but it could have been just before, and also possibly coyotes, or coyotes, however you say it. So if you think about it, one theory suggests that a small group, so what happens is wolves like to group around each other. All right, I'm just thinking openly. And sometimes in those groups, they break off and they aren't as accepted into the packs because they either show less aggression, they show less traits, they're the different type of wolves. So they broke apart and they would settle around human dwellings where they would look for the lazy ways to live. For example, they would eat from leftovers and scraps. They were more docile than wolves, and they would surround the human camps as they would enter into some form of mutual relationship. So on one side, the humans thought, you know what? This is great. We've got wolves around the perimeter. Let's use them for a number of reasons. And we will keep giving them scraps of food, and we'll give them other forms of food. So on one side, the wolves would protect the humans from wild animals and even enemies, because remember, humans were fighting humans at the time. And they would secure the perimeters, and they would act as in a form of alarm systems to warn from their enemies, so they can finally sleep knowing that they have a guard. On the other hand, humans would give them food, so they won't need to hunt as much. And then these wolves started to accumulate around the perimeter, and they would adapt to new types of foods from meat. And that was based on starches. So it wasn't just, raw animals that they were eating now. They were eating cooked animals, and they were eating starch-based foods. And by doing this, it changed the eating habits and genetics. So they evolved to be able to digest these starch-type foods, which changed their way of developing. And over time, humans started using wolves in other ways. So they started becoming closer and closer to the humans, where the humans would eventually give them food, and the wolves would take the food very gently, and the wolves that bit the hands of the humans, they killed off. And this is now entering into what's called artificial selection, where the humans are now intervening with the evolution of the natural selection. So they killed off the wolves that would bite the hand, and they would keep the wolves that were gentle to the grieving hand. And if today, when you give a dog a piece of food, very seldom do you see them snatching it out of your hand. They are so gentle. And it's all instinctual. They're not doing it because they don't want to hurt you. They're doing it because it's instinctual. Anyway, let me carry on. So this type of thing with the wolves coming closer and closer, adapting to starches, adapting to new ways of genetics and mutation over time, these wolves would now breed even tamer wolves. Their teeth structures would become smaller. Their ears would become floppier. Their muscles would become weaker, because they aren't needed as much. And then different dogs were treated differently according to their evolution. So, for example, hunters were dogs which had great smell. Then there were herding dogs. There were protectors who would protect against other animals and enemies. Then there were the thinner dogs who would be used for racing. And there were the large and muscular dogs who were used for guard, duty, and protection. And then the smaller dogs who were now as LaRue said, they were the mutated type dogs which now were used for nurture and company. The cute little dogs. And this has led to artificial selection, where we are now disrupting the nature of nature itself. So wolves small dogs came from big wolves Because can you imagine taking a little Pekingese or a little Chihuahua and having them survive in the jungle for thousands of years? No. They would have been eaten off and they would have been killed off. So that's my little 2 cents on wolves versus poodles. The next questions, any thoughts about that, Laroop?
I want to add. Oh.
Ali, yes.
I wanted to add, so based on research again, historians have all agreed that the poodle didn't actually originate in France, but funny enough, it originated in Germany. Tim from Germany.
Germany.
On the right here. Yes, and many believe that the breed is the result of crosses between several European water dogs, including Spanish, Portuguese, French, German, Hungarian, and Russian water dogs.
Wow.
So I don't know if we should call it the French poodle. We should actually be calling it the German poodle instead.
That's very true, because, I mean, there's different types of poodles, though. There's Maltese poodle, there's French poodle. But the thing is that, Ali, the French poodles didn't start off as French poodles. They've got longer snouts, so they were probably used for racing dogs. They were the thinner type dogs, and they obviously came from the type of wolf. But what I heard is that mostly the tamed and domesticated dogs came from Northern America, which I think is amazing. So Northern America, some in Eastern Europe, and then now, like you said, in Germany. But now we must be talking just a couple of thousand years ago, like maybe 10 or 20,000 years ago. So what are your thoughts? Are there any things to add before we move to the next question? Dreaming Demon?
Well, I just wanted to, off something you said, that selective breeding, I think that mankind has done so to such an extent that now it's actually a detriment to the animals. I overheard something, not overheard, but heard something on NPR a while back about bulldogs being bred to such an extent that they can't they have trouble breathing.
Correct.
You know, certain breeds are bred so specifically that they develop all sorts of health concerns and so forth. So I think that mankind's interruption in that whole thing is.
But the thing is, mankind is the reason for bulldogs to be around today. You know, bulldogs cannot.
Yeah, they serve no other purpose, right?
Bulldogs cannot be conceived naturally through the mother. I don't know if it's American or French, but humans need to intervene and do the cesarean. So we are disrupting evolution by keeping a species that should be died off by now. But then to the bulldog, obviously they get to experience life and awareness and consciousness, and then it's like a moral dilemma, actually, Ali, and that is should we stop breeding bulldogs? Should we let a natural selection move on, take over?
I guess we'll need to do some research and see if it's going to affect the biocycle in a sense. Not that most of them are domesticated, so I don't actually see it affecting the biocycle. It will just affect their species.
Hello, new people that have joined. So, welcome to Oh My Brain. This is the premiere, the first event of the evening. Sorry, the first event of all time, Oh My Brain's the premiere. And basically we discuss certain topics. This is a topic for today, wolves versus pooches. And the question is, do small dogs come from wolves? And then we go around the table and we discuss our opinions. So, Nixel, would you like to share your thoughts on if you believe wolves came from poodles? Celine?
The other way around.
60. I know. You know how often that happens. Poodles came from wolves. When you're speaking as fast, you just say a whole bunch of stuff. Celine, would you like to share your thoughts?
Right? I mean, their dogs must be capable of learning more.
Okay.
I would think.
Interesting.
That's my guess.
Cool.
Yeah.
Let's go to Tim.
Honestly, my first thought was that wolves, they do live in packs, and the dogs, as we know nowadays, the domestic dogs, they kind of depend on the human. So I used to have a cat and a dog, and I know that my dog always wanted to interact with me, like he always was seeking for my attention, while the cat only came when it wanted food. So it didn't really bother, or yeah, it just did its thing, the cat. Um, it's a good question, to be honest. I have no clear answer to it. So I just think that there is a bond, like a strong bond between the human and the dog, and dogs don't like to feel alone, so they need our attention, and they always want to be close to us, while cats are more independent. Um, yeah,
All right.
and I would say that cats still are more predators just by nature, while the domestic dog nowadays has none of these predator senses or skills. I mean, when you look at a cat, it goes and hunts, it catches mouses and all kind of animals or birds, while the dog doesn't really do it.
Awesome. Ali.
Well, they actually have found that the DNA of the cat ranges and goes back to several million years ago, actually. Being a cat mom, cats are actually quite independent and very, yeah, they're very independent. They they do go out, whereas a dog can stay inside the house most of the time. So I'm sure maybe it's got something to do with their DNA too. Um, and apparently the first cat was domesticated 8,000 to 10,000 years ago. So compared to the wolves, they were obviously domesticated much later. Maybe
Alright.
that also plays a role.
I,
Would you like to add something to that?
I mean, I don't have a lot to add because the question just came to mind a little, just now. But I think, so cats, I think, were domesticated. Like you said, the DNA has been around for 10, 12 million years. But I think the idea of domesticating cats came around with the Egyptians. So that was only about 4,000 years ago, where they started using symbology of cats. There was some type of gods. They were worshipped, and then they were domesticated in certain ways that they would start feeding them and looking after them. Cats also, if you think about it, it's also their stomach processes and what they can absorb. So dogs learn to eat more starch-based foods. They learned how to eat anything, really. Some dogs eat fruit and vegetables and whatever, and cats are limited within what they can eat. So
Right.
to domesticate the cats was a lot more of a difficult mission because first thing, there was less control. And until this day, as much as you say your cats are domesticated, they can live without human interaction. When you're gone, they don't have that mourning that dogs instinctually feel. And it's because they aren't evolved to do that. They are evolved to survive and
I beg
thrive.
to differ.
Yes, no,
I beg
speak.
to differ. I've had cats that are very social. Like couldn't they would get depressed if they weren't around people.
For how
Like,
long?
I think it depends on the cat. Like I
Right.
had
And its personality.
yeah. I mean, my last cat, if I left it for more than 12 hours, it would get all temperamental and when I came home and
But-
hissed at me until I
But now
apologized.
I can tell you why. Cats are routine creatures. They adapt to routine. Dreaming
Okay.
Demon, can you just move to another couch because I can't see. It's between you and Tim. Thanks. So cats are adaptable creatures, and they do not like having their routine destroyed. They like a certain type of food. They like a certain place to sleep. They like their humans for a certain time. But 12 hours, yes, they do miss you. They run up to you. I've had cats for 17 years. They are highly domesticated, but they do not mourn as long as dogs mourn. Some dogs mourn their entire lives. They go to the graves of the humans. I'm yet to see a cat who goes to graves to mourn after a couple of years. The only reason that they feel that they miss you and have all that interaction is mainly because their routine is being interrupted for a short period of time, and then they learn to adapt and survive. And cats are more independent than dogs. If you leave a dog on the street, they're more likely to pass away because they can't catch food as well as cats. Cats can catch birds and mice and whatever it is. But cats were less domesticated because they were less used compared to dogs. Dogs were used for a number of things: hunting, gathering, nurture, guarding, barking. And cats, well, we don't really know what they came from, but it must have been some type of felidae or feline type species. But it's an interesting thing because if you look at it, cats are probably less evolved than dogs, but it's still in the process. In the next, 5,000-10,000 years, cats are probably going to be very domesticated because of how we're treating them. They're becoming smaller, they're becoming cuter, they're becoming more dependent on humans. And yeah. All right, so those who've just joined, would you like to add on? The question is, do small dogs come from wolves, which was the first question. And you may answer if you would like. So let's go with Angel Devil. Welcome to Oh My Brain. Feel free to speak or pass. Or Jedediah. Feel free to speak or pass.
Jedediah.
How old are you, Jedediah?
What do you mean speak or pass?
You can choose to speak or pass. Cybervines, you have any thoughts on this?
It's an interesting question. I mean, it depends on if you. Oh, okay. There we go. It's an interesting question. It depends on how you perceive evolution. Is it top down or bottom up?
Right. Well, in this case, it's artificial selection.
So are you asserting from a top down or bottom up?
What do you mean by that? Can you clarify?
So the two different types of evolution that we perceive is top down, which is from a more complex version all the way down to dogs. And then the other version is from a single cell all the way up to what we have as dogs
let me
today.
ask you this.
And so my question was,
you'll be able to answer.
down or
You'll be
bottom
able to answer your own question because this is based on interpretation of beliefs. But my question to you is: do you believe that there were chihuahuas in the jungle 30, 40,000 years ago?
I don't I believe it's sort of, top down, so I don't think that would be the case.
So yes, definitely this is top down. I was just waiting to. It's up to your interpretation. I don't want to say.
I think that would be really hard.
Definitely top down, from wolves down to dogs. Or
Yeah,
pooches.
I think. I mean, even if it's survival of, a pooch would be definitely a lesser, structure, and it would probably die off pretty quickly.
And we can see it
If
with
not immediately.
We can see it with the evolution. We can see it with that dogs now have smaller teeth. They are able to digest a lot more than wolves can. They have smaller muscular features. They can run less. And it's because we have intervened within the natural selection process, hence artificial selection.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
The only thing that would
Yes.
lean me in the other direction is they have uncovered bones of dogs and cats
Right.
that are smaller than we expect.
And how many years ago was this?
I mean, we've uncovered many dogs and many cats, especially in Egyptian tombs, because they used to bury them
Right.
with their owners.
Right.
And almost every single one of them were smaller physically smaller than we thought that they would be.
But we're still talking about, look, Egypt was just what, 3,000 years ago. And we're talking, just so you know, Cybervines, we're talking, as Ali mentioned, 15,000 to 40,000 years. And yes, they have found with human and dog burials from around 16,000 years, showing that we were close with dogs. They found, for example, 10,000 years ago, they found material within their, sewn up within their broken bones to show that humans interfered with dogs, and they showed that they were trying to heal them. They also found rock paintings with dogs hunting with humans. And the thing is with dogs, and another thing I wanted to bring up with cats, why they're less domesticated, is because the morphability breeds are unlike any animal we've ever seen before. You look at the number of breeds of dogs compared to cats, unlike anything you've ever seen before.
Oh, what about dog fossils?
Dog fossils. So there's two types of dogs that we're talking about that they originated from. The first one is the ancestor before the gray wolf, the Canis lupus. And with this is these were the bigger type dog bones. But now there are also studies saying that we evolved, or we interfered with artificial selection with coyotes as well. And coyotes are a much smaller type of dog, but they were also wild, and we learned to domesticate them. So yeah. Yes. Anything else? Cybervines?
Oh no, sorry. I think that was well said.
Yeah, no, I think that was great that you mentioned the human burials, because I mean that just shows how long we have been involved with dogs. And Ali says 15 to 40,000 years, but the bones have been found 16,000 years ago, where a dog was closely domesticated to their owner. Matt, would you like to answer the question? Share any thoughts, ideas, answers? Welcome, Matt. This is the first event for Oh My Brains. Every week we're going to be changing the topic, and I thought we could start with a nice evolution topic. Next week will be more quantum / science / spirituality, so it's going to change the way you think about life in general. And that's the idea with these events, you know, to fire our brains, fire our neurons. Is that what you said? I think Ali said expand our neurons. But yeah. Larube. Snezzles, hello there. Welcome to the end. Would you like to share your thoughts on the question?
Do small dogs come from wolves? I believe, actually. I might need some time to think of that.
All right. Well, we have come to the
input so far.
I mean, we have come to the end of the event, so you can go into VR Digital Citizens, watch it, and learn about the ideas of evolution from the, as Cybervine says, the top-down approach from wolves down to dogs. And it was good. I mean, obviously, this is similar to the moral dilemma and the social dilemma discussion, but with the premiere, we also had around this many people. But, you know, add Ali as a friend, and we will send reminders. But Ali, would you like to say anything else?
They've actually done some DNA, they've actually done a DNA study on the fossils of dogs that was suggested before. And apparently they originated in Europe, and the estimation is 19 to 32 years ago. But either that, it's still quite a long time ago. I mean, it's more information than we have about ourselves, actually.
Hold on, so 19 to 32?
1,000 years ago.
1,000 years ago, okay.
That's not very long.
from a DNA study that has been done on their fossils, dog-like fossils.
And that's more of domestication, is that correct?
Yes.
Very interesting.
Yeah, interesting.
And apparently they also say that their diet was horse, musk, ox, and reindeer from back then, before they were actually domesticated.
Say that again. Horse? What? Horse?
So, an international team of scientists has just identified what they believe in the world's first known dog, which was large and toothy. It was a canine that lived 31,700 years ago
Wow.
and subsided on a diet of horse, musk ox, and reindeer, according to the new study.
Unbelievable. Horse, musk, ox. That's amazing.
Another interesting fact, according to DNA, dog breeds closely related to wolves from a DNA aspect. So the closest one is the Afghan hound. Second one is the Alaskan Malamute. Third one, the Siberian Husky.
Right.
Fourth one, wait for it, the Shih Tzu. And the Pekingese as well. Can you believe it? How these tiny little dogs, right, are very closely related to wolves from a DNA point of view.
And I mean, if you look at the Siberian Husky, it still has a lot of its traits. It still has its howl. It still has its...
Right.
It's one to hunt. And it's one to eat. It's still got its bone structure. So I had a Siberian Husky, and it would chow lamb bones like they were biscuits. And that's amazing.
And they're such beautiful dogs.
They are wonderful animals to keep. But yes, so there we go. That's the end of Oh My Brains. And feel free to join VR Digital Citizens on Facebook and Instagram. Thank you a lot for joining. Topics change every week, and we really appreciate your time. And we hope to see you next week, Thursday, for another Oh My Brain. And tomorrow is the moral dilemma.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what Snezzles likes.
Where basically we give you a choice of two options and you would decide. So it's actually a dilemma based on your morals and your ethics. In what would you do in the one situation, and what would you do in another situation? We usually have two questions.
It's same time.
It's the same time.
Same time as this event, but tomorrow. Yeah, I'm actually excited to tell them about Oh My Brains, because we haven't told anybody about Oh My Brains this week except Social Dilemma.